Hi, I'm Vince, also known as Peasant Kenobi on the internet, and on this channel recently I've done quite a few videos covering cheating, both in Magic and Warhammer, because everybody loves a good fucking cheating video. No, seriously, they perform really well, so keep watching them, keep liking, don't forget to subscribe. We've covered the largest well-known cheaters in Magic the Gathering, and we've covered shuffle cheating in Magic as well. Link in the description below to that video because it's relevant to one of these cases. But in today's video, we're going to talk about some of the strangest cheats in the history of Magic's illustrious competitive career. So grab a drink, buckle up, and hide your sunglasses. I don't want you getting a peep at my hand. And now, back to your scheduled programming about fucking cheaters. Let's start by talking about Tomoharu Sato. Sato was a young and promising professional Magic player in the early noughties, doing well on the circuit, writing for ChannelFireball.com, and becoming a hopeful of the MTG Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he then decided to do some really dumb shit, one of which is surprisingly ballsy and very fucking weird. Firstly, he was disqualified from the 2001 Asia Pacific Championships for bribing one of his fellow competitors. He offered them $2,000 of his prize money to just not show up to the quarterfinals match. Their translator of the event claimed that this was offered as a consolation prize, as Peter Chow, the player in question, couldn't make it to the match anyway. After investigation, all three of them were disqualified. To explain this to people who've never been to a Magic the Gathering tournament before, in short, bribery isn't allowed, strangely. Now, there is some complications around the language with which you can discuss splitting a prize at the top of a tournament. I've had a friend and local player, a level 1 judge actually, get disqualified from an event by a level 2 that both drove me and him to the event. Yeah, that was an awkward car journey home, but he was DQ'd for joking that his opponent owed him money, which he did, because that could be collusion, bribery, that sort of thing, you know? It's awkward. It's a thing that's happened in Magic a lot where I don't even know how I approach the idea of splitting a prize without making it sound like I'm offering my opponent something to concede. It's complicated. Add to that the translation issues and needing a translator for that situation, and makes it all perhaps forgivable. It could have been a misunderstanding. That's fair, right? Fast forward and Sato is racking up the wins. A couple more GP top 8s after this, a Pro Tour top 4, and winning a Pro Tour in 2006. He was on fire throughout the noughties with several more top 8s of Pro Tours. He then got DQ'd from a Grand Prix in 2010. This was the event that made Channel Fireball finally drop his articles. Bearing in mind the weird one hasn't come up yet. That's actually between these two incidents. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But in essence, he knew he was dead on board. He knew he was losing the round, so he began to play very slowly to try and get to the end of the round timer. So when the timer comes to an end, if you're still in the Swiss part of the tournament, you'll get a draw instead of a loss, improving your standings for the event. In his actual explanation of the whole thing, he claims he was just playing slowly and carefully, but the investigation from the judges deemed that he was just slow playing, which is against the rules, and he got a DQ. This actually got his Hall of Fame invite rescinded. He never got into the Hall of Fame. But I left out the best antic, the weirdest bit of his cheating. After his initial case of bribery in the year 2001 at a Grand Prix Kobe, he did some very strange shit. I'm going to read out the official statement to get all the details in here, and then we'll unpack it a bit. In the third round of the Grand Prix, Sato was playing the third game of his match. As the game neared its finish, Sato was in a situation where it was guaranteed that he would lose on his opponent's next turn. At the end of his opponent's turn, Sato began counting his deck, changing the order of the cards in his library whilst doing so. That's against the rules too. He then placed his deck in front of his opponent as if offering for his opponent to cut the deck as if he'd shuffled or searched or something. Sato's opponent, while somewhat confused at Sato's actions, then cut the deck. Sato immediately raised his hand and called a judge, claiming that his opponent was manipulating his deck. During the following investigation, Sato admitted it was in an interview that when he called the judge, he was hoping that by doing so, he would be able to turn things to his favor and win the match. That's a clear unsporting conduct violation, and he got fucking hammered for that. But that's also only the tip of the iceberg, right? Trying to catch your opponent out and say, oh, they're doing a dodgy thing is one thing, but doing it by... What he was trying to do, to be clear, was get his opponent caught out for doing something they shouldn't be doing. But in order to get them caught out for doing something they shouldn't be doing, he did multiple things he should not have been doing in front of everyone. Reordering your deck is a no-no. You can only reorder your deck randomly if a card or effect allows you to shuffle your library. And then handing it to his opponent in open and suggesting that they cut it, and the opponent being confused but doing it anyway. There's a lot of things here that are just so fucking weird and kind of ballsy that he thought he'd get away with it. Evidently he was panicked. Evidently he was looking for a way to win that was outside of the game's rules. Evidently he was cheating. and he got DQ'd for. What the fuck was he thinking? He was DQ'd and actually got an 18-month ban to think about what he was doing, all prior to this meteoric rise to prominence during the noughties. After being suspended again during the slow play incidents in 2010, he did return and have quite a good career. He was the runner-up in the Player of the Year race in 2016 and now owns a little-known shop called Harayuya in Japan. He's doing alright for himself considering some, quite frankly, bizarro attempts at cheating. Next up on our list is Olivier Rouel. This dude actually got into the Hall of Fame, which is pretty fucking wild. Inducted in 2009, he wrote some great articles for MTG sites at the time, including 10 simple tips to play better Magic. And whilst attend tournaments was amongst the advice, some truly big brain concepts there, he failed to mention that you need to consistently cheat at them to really follow in his footsteps. In Ted Knutsen's fascinating article over on SCG, titled Ill-Gotten Gains, Musings about the 2008 Hall of Fame, Knutsen pleads that Olivier shouldn't be on the ballot because he's a fucking cheater. Knutsen lists 2 premier examples of Olivier cheating and being DQ'd, 2 high-profile events. Once for trying to bribe an opponent at a Pro Tour, I believe it was, and the other was for shuffle cheating. Something that a judge told him it looked like he was doing, please, adjust your shuffling accordingly. He didn't, and he got DQ'd for. So he even ignored a fucking warning. Something Knutsen observes that Olivier got away with his bad rep of being a cheater and being able to get a fucking Hall of Fame ballot and succeed was because he was a disarming individual. He is charismatic, but in a softer and more personable way than that of notorious sharks and cheaters like Mike Long, who we talked about in the Biggest Cheaters video. The funny thing is, all of this doesn't even touch upon his weirdest cheat. It was weird, this incident of he's cheating, but then he kind of technically isn't, but he just lied about it anyway. He got caught looking at his opponent's hand in the reflection of his opponent's sunglasses. Now, to be clear, it's not against the rules of Magic to see some of your opponent's hand or deck if they accidentally reveal it. If they drop their cards, they lean their hand too far forward, that kind of shit. However, you can't go out of your way to make use of this. You can't lean around to get a look at someone's hand that they're tilting in a different direction, for example. If your opponent's playing sloppy, you aren't punished if you see something. However, Olivier Rouel's opponent had sunglasses around his neck, not on his face, and that gave a reflection of his hand. Look, I've played really hungover at 1GP with some sunglasses on where I had a headache I couldn't shake and the hall was really bright. And I'm pretty sure my opponent could see my hand the whole time. That's on me. But what Olivier Rouel did was he fixated and looked for the whole time at this hand and was spotted doing so. When this came to light, judges interviewed him for it and asked if he could see his opponent's hand. And instead of explaining that he could see them in the sunglasses, he instead lied and said he couldn't. His eventual DQ was for lying to a judge. Seeing stuff because your opponent's playing sloppy is okay, but lying to a judge is against the competitive rules of Magic. Now, Rouel explains in his official statement that because he was recently off of a suspension due to one of his former occasions of cheating, he was nervous that another DQ might cop him a permanent ban and just end his career there and then. This is fucking hilarious to me, that a confirmed and known cheater hadn't cheated, but then got DQ'd for lying to a judge because he didn't want to misconstrue that he was cheating because he was already suspended for cheating previously and is fearful that these cheats might add up and get him banned. I'm like, good. Fucking ban him. The fact that a dude with this kind of reputation who has articles on the internet talking about and calling out how bad a cheater, and in this case a liar, he is, the fact that he's in the Hall of Fame completely and utterly, it invalidates a lot of the prestige and the energy around that. It's a disservice to the other professional players that aren't a bunch of cheaters. It fucking sucks. Next up we have Dave Mills. This one is the weirdest of the list. Technically, Dave Mills didn't cheat. And by technically, I mean, well, kind of literally, actually. But what was the reason he was DQ'd from the 1997 Los Angeles Pro Tour? Well, he was playing his spells and then tapping his mana. Something we've all done. At the time, it was illegal to cast a spell and then tap your mana. You had to tap your mana and then cast your spell. And Dave Mills got multiple warnings about this in the top 8 of the Pro Tour in 1997. In the finals, a best of 5 match where he's 2 games up, needs 1 more win to take home that Pro Tour title and trophy and money. He's been warned already, if he does it again, he's going to get DQ'd because it's against the rules. He plays a spell and he taps his mana afterwards. And the judge, rightfully or wrongfully, DQ'd him on the spot. Fucking woof. This meant that even though he had fair and square gotten second place, his prize money of $16,000 would be held back from him. Was it a misplay? Was it technically a problem in skill if you can't take on board the judge's advice? Well, maybe, but fuck me, was that a bad ruling. Don't worry though, justice was served. A collection of players, including the known cheater and subject of future videos, Mark Justice, stormed the stage during the ceremony and demanded that something be done. Eventually, Dave Mills was awarded his second place prize money, but in all fairness, he could have came first, couldn't he? Shortly afterwards, though, the rules were changed, and you no longer get DQ'd from a fucking Pro Tour if you play your spell and tap your mana. Good. So what do you think? Was Dave Mills the dumbest disqualification in competitive Magic history? Have I missed out another really weird case that you're going to tell me about in the comment section below, and then I'm going to use in a future video? Do you think sunglasses should be banned from all convention halls and tournament centers? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, you fucking sluts. And I'll see you all soon. Ta-ta for now.